Welcome to our deep dive on the United States' unprecedented decision to re-vet refugees who were already admitted between 2021 and 2025. In this video, we will unpack why this is happening, what the government says it will accomplish, why critics warn it could harm refugees and the broader system, and what it means for individuals and institutions. We will use data, diagrams, and case scenarios to provide a structured, balanced look at a complex policy shift. Let's start with the roadmap for today's session. Agenda. First, we will define the new re-vetting policy and how it differs from historical practice. Next, we will review the standard refugee vetting pipeline. Then, we will compare the stated rationale to critiques by analysts and advocates. After that, we will walk through a timeline of how the policy appears to roll out. We will assess the scale and logistics, identify who is most affected, share practical steps if viewers are directly impacted, and conclude with a short quiz and key takeaways. Disclaimer: this content is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice or an endorsement of any policy. Viewers should consult qualified legal counsel or an accredited representative for personalized guidance. We aim to present accurate, balanced analysis based on the provided context and publicly known processes. Backdrop: the United States is mandating re-interviews for a very large cohort of refugees already admitted from approximately 2021 to 2025. Officials involved in immigration services say the move is an operational necessity to ensure no public safety or national security risks were missed. Critics counter that refugees already undergo multi-layered screening, and that reopening settled cases years later risks undermining stability for vulnerable families, while diverting scarce resources away from current threats and pending cases. This is the central tension we will examine. Ordinarily, the refugee pathway begins with a person fleeing persecution or conflict and being referred through UNHCR or designated U.S. programs. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services conducts interviews, and multiple security and intelligence databases are checked, typically across agencies such as DHS, FBI, and the State Department. Only after clearing these layers is a person approved and admitted. Resettlement follows, with placement through nonprofit partners. The current change inserts a new step: mass re-interview and file review years after admissions. This can result in no action, requests for additional checks, or, in rare, contested scenarios, adverse action. The novelty and breadth of this step is what makes the policy unusual and controversial. On the rationale side, officials describe the move as operationally necessary to ensure consistency, close any perceived gaps, and reassure the public that admitted refugees continue to pose no risk. On the reality side, critics argue that the same individuals already passed extensive checks, so duplication wastes resources that could address urgent caseloads. They stress that reopening settled cases creates undue fear for families who have begun building lives, and that it signals humanitarian admissions are vulnerable to political swings. The core dispute is whether this is a targeted security enhancement or a broad deterrent that undermines stability and credibility. This timeline situates the re-vetting policy relative to the 2021 to 2025 admissions window. A pilot or early phase may begin around 2024, with scale-up in 2025. Operations could peak into 2026, depending on staffing and budgets. Outcomes are ongoing, including no action, additional checks, or potential adverse actions in a subset of cases. The important takeaway is sequencing. The re-vetting overlays onto already completed vetting and resettlement, requiring sustained interagency coordination over multiple years. The affected cohort is estimated at roughly 235,000 admitted refugees, spanning 2021 to 2025. Managing this volume involves nationwide coordination, scheduling interviews, securing interpreters, retrieving or digitizing case files, arranging travel, and accommodating vulnerable populations. Such a surge can cause spillover delays in other parts of the immigration system, including asylum adjudications, visa processing, and benefits. The pie chart is illustrative to depict how re-vetting could dominate operational bandwidth compared to other activities. It is not an official statistic. This table outlines stakeholder impacts. Refugee families may face uncertainty and stress, including disruptions to work, school, and travel planning. Agencies must reallocate staff and funding, possibly increasing backlogs elsewhere. Resettlement organizations and schools could encounter heightened case management needs and community anxiety. Employers and local communities may see unpredictable availability as individuals attend interviews. Legal providers could experience higher consultation volumes and possible litigation in contested cases. For individuals who receive a re-interview notice, first confirm the notice is authentic by checking case identifiers and the sending agency. Collect identity documents, prior interview notes if available, and any relevant receipts or correspondence. If you need language support, request an interpreter as early as possible. Seek counsel from a qualified immigration attorney or accredited representative to understand rights, obligations, and potential consequences. Ensure your contact details are up to date. Monitor deadlines, and know how to reschedule if necessary. Keep a log of all communications. Finally, ask how a re-interview could affect pending benefits or travel plans to avoid unintended lapses. Quiz time. The question asks which option is least likely to be a direct effect of mass re-interviews. Option A is increased pressure on interpreter scheduling. Option B is immediate deportation of all re-interviewed individuals. Option C is growth in processing backlogs for other case types. Option D is higher demand for legal consultations. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Re-interviews do not result in immediate deportation of all individuals. Outcomes may include no action, requests for additional checks, or, in a smaller subset, adverse decisions that could be contested. The other choices, interpreter pressure, backlog growth, and increased legal consultations, are plausible direct effects of mass re-interviews. Operational trade-offs are front and center. Agencies may emphasize security signaling, but this can come at the expense of throughput efficiency, with fewer resources left for other mission areas. A short-term operational surge can degrade long-term system resilience if backlogs and staff fatigue accumulate. Centralizing procedures can standardize outcomes but reduce local flexibility needed for vulnerable cases. While public reassurance is a stated objective, international credibility could be harmed if policy appears politically driven rather than risk-based. This journey map compares experiences across the refugee family, the USCIS officer, legal aid providers, and resettlement organizations. At the notice stage, the family experiences high stress. Officers face planning burdens. Legal aid sees appointment spikes, and resettlement partners coordinate logistics. During preparation, document collection and interpreter requests intensify. Interview day consolidates workload for officers and stress for families, with legal representatives assisting where possible. Post-interview, outcomes may be no action, further checks, or adverse decisions, each with distinct follow-up tasks for every lane. Key points. The re-vetting initiative adds a sweeping post-admission check to an already rigorous vetting process. Officials justify it as operationally necessary, while critics warn of redundancy and harm to vulnerable families. The policy risks diverting resources from other urgent workloads. Ensuring clear guidance, due process, and access to counsel is essential for those affected. Finally, how this is communicated and implemented will shape the United States' credibility in humanitarian protection. Second quiz. The question asks, which principle best helps preserve credibility while addressing risk? Option A is mass reviews without explanation. Option B is targeted, risk-based checks with due process. Option C is eliminating initial vetting to speed arrivals. Option D is permanent suspension of all humanitarian admissions. You may pause the video now to consider your answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section. The correct answer is B. Targeted, risk-based checks that respect due process are the most credible way to address genuine risks without disrupting the broader humanitarian mission. Mass reviews without explanation undermine trust, while eliminating initial vetting or suspending all admissions would be neither practical nor consistent with humanitarian obligations. To summarize, the policy introduces mass re-interviews for refugees already admitted during the 2021 to 2025 period. Officials emphasize security assurance, while critics warn about redundancy, instability, and resource diversion. The impacts extend to families, agencies, resettlement networks, legal providers, and local communities. If you are affected, verify notices, gather documents, seek qualified legal help, and closely manage deadlines. Going forward, monitor backlog changes, transparency about selection criteria, the distribution of outcomes, and international responses that speak to credibility and deterrence effects. Thank you for watching. If this breakdown helped you understand a complex topic, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives. We would love to hear your perspectives and experiences. Share them in the comments, and let us know what you want us to cover next.